Okay. Life is good. So what are we going to do today? Oh. So New Deal, what does that mean? I'm going to test you guys, because Ashley is not going to be addicted to her phone. She can say it herself. I am totally not addicted to my phone. What does New Deal mean?
So what made a deal and it's New Deal means campaign.
Makes sense, right? Close. What?
Campaign promises.
Okay, it is clearly a campaign promise. You guys understand, we know the election cycle. We have 28, 32, 36, 40, 44, 45. Hopefully you guys know who gets elected. I'm not going to fill that in for reasons that will remain undone. So a New Deal is related to a campaign promise. There's no question about it. But what does it actually mean? There's two ways you can look at it, and Ashley's version is, I got a brand new deal for you for this brand new car. It's kind of like a deal, something I'm going to give you. It's not what it is. It's much more in terms of poker. So you have 5 cards, right? I don't know if you guys play poker at all, but you pay poker. And if everybody around the table has a bad hand, everybody folds, and what do they say?
New Deal.
New Deal. And that's what they're talking about. It's a new deal. So everybody's got a bad hand. The economy is being bad for everybody. I'm promising a new deal. Everybody will get to start from scratch. That's his campaign slogan. Now, what does this imply right off the bat? If he's promising New Deal, what does it say about the existing deal, right?
It sucks.
That's what he's saying.
Bluntly, it flat out sucks. It's putting it bluntly here.
That's what he's saying. Now, how many of you guys, I don't want to put too many of you on the spot, but if you want to brag, this is your opportunity to brag. How many of you guys actually read? Boom! Aaron gets to brag. Good man.
I read, guys.
Okay, this is a good thing. What did you read about the Great Depression?
That it was just like a major economical downfall and people were dying in the streets.
Dying in the streets. Now, they didn't actually say dying in the streets, but as you read it, you get this impression that how could anybody have survived through this horrible and awful mess? Okay, maybe not so. There's a reason why they describe it that way, and there's a reason why your textbooks talk about it that way, and I will talk about that later, but I want you to be aware of this. And FDR is clearly saying the same thing. Great Depression, of course, they don't call it the Great Depression in 32, but this economic situation is horrible. It's worse than it's ever been. Never had such a terrible thing, but I promise to give you a new deal. Now, I want you just to kind of, I'm going to put this here. I promise. I'm not going to talk about it a lot now, but just I want you to pause and think about what that means. I promise. So who's going to solve this?
He is.
I'm going to solve this, right? I promise. I'm solving this. This has amazing implications, and I'm not going to talk about it now, but I just want you to understand what this is meaning. Now, the funny thing is that today you guys don't give it a second thought because people do this all the time. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I thought were you asking what it would be?
Go ahead.
I guess I'm going to solve this. That means the government's going to solve this.
Yes, but not just the government, right?
The
The federal government is going to solve. The thing is, I mentioned that you take this for granted. Because every time you have a presidential candidate nowadays, it's common. I'm going to solve this.
We're fed this every election. So
Constantly.
we're practically numb to this.
This is not new for you, but you have to understand that this really is new. Okay? This is new. The Fed will solve. That's what it means. I know this doesn't sound unusual. Of course, people do this all the time. I don't know what you're talking about, Zorea. It's not a big deal. It is. Okay. I will pause there, give you a daily quiz, and then we will move on. Because if I say any more, the daily quiz will be kind of meaningless. You guys got that right. Okay, so clearly,
We're smart.
New Deal is for 1932. And for those of you who weren't here Monday, how many New Deals were there? 2. New Deal 1, New Deal 2. Some of your textbooks will mention this, some of them will not. So if they don't, it's okay. It is very important to understand the distinction between the two types of deals because it'll help you with your chronology. It'll help you to understand what types of agencies were in what era. Okay? So he gets elected in 32 based off of the New Deal, which is basically arguing that Hoover, who is the president, is responsible,
For the.
totally responsible for it. He makes this argument. Lots of people want to hear it. Now, this is total personality, total common sense thing. Why do people, the public, why would they want to hear that it's the president's fault?
They have to blame somebody.
Well, not just, you're right, but why is that a good thing? Why do we want to blame somebody?
We don't want to blame ourselves that we got
No,
ourselves.
because they will be re-electing someone else in 4 years, so they can fix it.
Yeah, that's it. So if it's his fault, then we have hope, weirdly enough, right? Because then FDR will come in and it'll be fixed. And that's exactly what FDR is promising. That's exactly what he's promising. I'm going to give you a New Deal. Well, okay, so New Deal 1 is for 1932. Why do we say that there's two New Deals?
That the problems weren't solved by 36.
Yeah, the economy is still in bad shape. It's still in bad shape. Now, the rule is that the existing economy is bad. Well, who's the president in 36? FDR. So by all rights, if he is responsible for the economy and it's still bad,
It's his fault.
then it's his fault. But that's obviously, I mean, let's put human nature in there. He's not going to say, oh, I goofed up, I'm sorry, let's bring Hoover back in. He's got to come up with another explanation. What is that? Was it you, Aaron, that had your hand up? What?
No, but, I mean, we came up with the New Deal too, so it could solve the problems that were.
So in 1935, what he's arguing, the second New Deal, second election, he's saying, I don't have enough time. The first one was just an approach. It didn't work yet. You need to give me more time, and I'll solve it, and I'll do it by using a different approach. Technically, when we look at New Deal 1, and we do look at New Deal 2, historians usually define these by recovery and relief. So the first New Deal, this is in 1930, excuse me, during 32 when he's running his election, we're going to have a recovery. So he's fixing things that are related to like the system. We're going to look at the banking system, the agricultural system, the business sector. Okay, these are all reforms that are intended to fix the system in order to recover the economy. Well, it doesn't work. So it's not enough to say, well, we'll do more of this. He has to say we're going to do something new and different. Otherwise, he's not going to win this election in 36. So his answer to that is relief. And what relief means is that it's money directly to people. So one way, and we use this phrase today, although it's not actually applicable, but social welfare programs. It doesn't quite fit because when we think of social welfare, we're really talking about stuff that happened under LBJ in the 1960s. You don't know about it yet, you will. But it's the concept you give direct money. So what would be an example of social welfare? How about Social Security?
Or disability checks.
What is Social Security?
Retirement.
Yeah, it's retirement, guaranteed retirement. So if you're 65 years old,
Guaranteed to what extent?
you get money.
Well, I know, but do you think that we're going to get Social Security?
Now, don't be cynical. This is where the cynicism has to be. Unfortunately, the answer is yes.
No.
Oh, totally yes.
No.
This is where the unfortunate is, right? Because how does it work?
We pay it when we work.
Yeah,
Our
but it's not
taxes.
your money, right?
Oh, when we get paid? No, it'll be our grandchildren's or
Yeah.
children's.
Whoever is working now pays for the checks at the time. So you're not putting money into a bank account. You're just putting money in. And then people are paying now. So will you have it? Yes, you will have it because you'll still have people working. What won't you have?
It won't be enough. There's not-
I think this is a good question here, and I'm not going to go too much into modern politics, except I think you're hitting on a really big deal. Which of these is easier to sell?
The handouts.
Totally easy to sell, right? Totally easy to sell. This is hard to sell. At first it was easy to sell because it says, I promise I'm going to solve this. And when we talk about Hoover in a second, that is not his philosophy. It wasn't Coolidge's philosophy. But FDR's philosophy is, I will fix it. The problem is it doesn't give you an immediate return. This gives you immediate returns. So the question she's asking, will you get it when you're younger? Well, yes, because that one will always buy elections. What if I say, I'm going to create a wonderful reform that'll totally change Social Security? It's going to cost some people not to have much money now, but it will completely change Social Security in the long run. How is that going to sell?
Not as well.
No.
It's probably not.
It's not going to sell. But to promise people money now, absolutely sell. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that this is what FDR does.